Well, hello there. I'm going to go ahead and again apologize for this struggle video, but again, all of the real equipment is 2,200 miles away from me at the moment. Also, which is why I'm doing this video solo. I recently shared rather, a Forbes article by writer Eric Kane in regards to The Walking Dead, and it was called, it's season 9, the comeback season, basically. I didn't actually take the time to read it, but it sounded like a positive review of the first episode of season 9. I was going to circle back to it, but I shared it because I didn't want to forget about it. And, I want to keep you guys as updated as humanly possible on all things Walking Dead. But I came across the comments for the piece, which was shared 5 times so far. And I seem to have inadvertently upset many of my fellow Richonners. Part of the piece goes, and I did read the piece, by the way, and it seems very positive until uh, this particular bit here. Eric says, characters feel more natural than ever, with interactions and dialogue between characters like Rick and Michonne coming across as more effortless and less confusing. Those two actually feel like a couple for the first time. The really abstract, nonsensical dialogue that played the last couple of seasons may not be gone all season long, but something has definitely changed for the season 9 premiere. Um, it's just, it's bizarre to me um, that that thought would. It's so confusing and weird to me how people do not understand one, how Rick and Michelle became a couple, or two, the realism behind it. I actually just wrote an article that I've been trying to place um, with a publisher, and if I can't place it where I want to place it, I'll just put it on the Living Richonne. But I actually give a quote um, from was that season 7, and say yes when Rick and Michonne have their unofficial honeymoon, as we like to refer to it. He she tries to encourage him to bring the communities together and to basically be, the number one ruler. And he rejects that idea. And he goes on to say, but the two of us, you and me, ordering things together, I want that if it's something you want it. And there's nothing, I'm trying to think of one example where their interactions were nonsensical, where it was confusing, or, their relationship was ambiguous. And to me, it was always blatantly clear what had been going on. And I think anybody who's confused by that should go and rewatch it. Or if you don't have the time to rewatch it, rewatch, I'm sure there's a version of the Richonne movie somewhere online. Rick and Michonne, like this whole thing really began, like it really started the moment that they met. And I was someone who came into the series who had no idea about the comics, what was supposed to happen. And I'll tell you two things that I noticed straight away. One, when Rick first meets Andrea, and they have that conversation about that necklace she was thinking about stealing in that shop, I knew straight away. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna put these two together, and it's gonna be so fucking boring. Those were my honest to god first initial thoughts. I thought that he was for sure gonna, leave his wife, or something's gonna happen to her, or whatever, and he would end up with Andrea, because that's usually how shows like this go. Even if it doesn't make any sense, even if there's, I would have rather Rick been alone. To be perfectly frank, there was zero chemistry. There was zero chemistry between those two actors. It just wasn't gonna fly. Then we fast forward to when Michonne and Rick finally cross paths, and it has to be said. Number one, she shows up with the baby formula that he needs. All right, this show is huge with symbolism, and it is extra heavy on the symbolism with Rick and Michonne. It always has been from the jump. She shows up to his house with food for his baby. Okay, um, and in their interactions, the chemistry was instant. So much so that Scott Gimple took notice of it and he decided to play off of that in his future scripts. Right? That's how we got like the beauty that is Clear, the episode Clear. I mean, although to me Rick and Michonne has always been readily apparent. Um, when she goes to Woodbury with him, and the whole Andrea thing kind of falls apart after she stabs the governor in the eye, and she goes back to Rick and he takes her weapons, and you can see that she's just like she realizes that she could truly be alone again. She doesn't want to go back to that. So when she tells Rick that he needs her, which is true, she also needs him, and that was clear in the way that it was played. It's clear in the way that it was acted. I don't want to go down the whole Richonne history, but it's so many instances. I'll give you my favorite one. Uh, and you'd have to go back and watch the episode. And I can't remember the title right now off the top of my head, but it's season 4. And after everyone's been sick, and Michonne is helping to move the bodies, and Rick he sees her, but first he makes this little pit stop at like this little barrel of water, and he kind of like spruces himself up, and then he goes over and he looks up at her and asks her if she needs any help with that, and she goes like, "Oh no, I'm good. You go do your thing." And he looks so dejected, so just like, oh well, I wouldn't spend time with her, get to know her, and she's like, "No, I'm good." And it's always been like, initially there's this miscommunication about who is into who, and Rick has been into Michonne for a super long time. Like you see it at the end of that conversation that they have in the prison before the governor shows up. And she says, "Oh, well, you could have just taken the formula." And he goes, "Well," looks her up and down, "must have been something else then." And she kind of smirks at him and walks away. And then he looks at her and then he follows immediately after. Like, even Norman Reedus pointed this out on Talking Dead, for crying out loud. Like, this has been going on, this flirtatious between these two, since the beginning. And it's just in symbolism. I was just talking about the dead body moving, and he asked her if she needs help. Behind her, there's this, and she's standing amongst the dead, which should be very dreary, out of prison. But behind her are these drawings, these colorful drawings like flowers and sunshine and light, drawn by children. Like that's the backdrop that he sees her. He's looking up at her, and it's very purposeful. There's no accidents when we're talking about layouts and cinematography and things like that. Like this was it was trying to show the viewer like this is how he sees her. Like amongst you know death and rotting bodies, there is this light above him, and it's her, and it's always been her. Um, and Clear, when she hands him that one single bullet, like he's angry, he's trying to like pick a fight with her, like whoa, what do you think we should do then? Like he's very snappy and sarcastic, and she basically tells him like, no, I don't want to fight, and she calms him down like in an instant. And the symbolism of giving him that one single bullet, giving him that power. Same thing in season 5, right? When she knocks his ass out, he's in that room alone, like waiting to hear the community bitch about wanting him to leave or whatever. He hands her his secret hidden gun that he got from Carol. And she like rolls her eyes and they have this exchange, and then he tries to give it to her again. So he tries to give her his weapon twice. And the second time she firmly gives it back, right? These two have been intertwined and connected and giving the most intensified, intense stares ever since the beginning. So when people try and say, and not only that, he has noticed her the way a man notices a woman. There's no shortage of scenes where he's caught looking at her, walking away, looking her up and down, and he's very appreciative of her body. And I don't blame him, and neither should you. So it baffles me when people try to say, "Oh, this came out of nowhere," or "It seems unrealistic." Like seriously, fuck off. Go watch something else. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Like seriously, shut the fuck up. Like you're just wrong. So anyway, this is going on much longer than I intended, and it probably ended up being a ramble. But I've always felt very passionate and very strongly about Michonne, and this predates uh, J Brand. This predates Brandon. It's just how I feel about this particular ship, and I know that the sun is about to go down on these two in some shape or form midway through season 9, and I don't know how. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. I'm not happy about it. But in the full scope of things, I think that what the show has done, Scott Gimple included, because he's the one who pushed us through. And I think as Rishoners, don't ever forget that. Be pissed off about many things, and I know a lot of things didn't go our way. But this one thing, this one I feel very important thing, went tremendously well. It was very nicely laid out, even with all of the supercuts bullshit in the middle. And that was only because, in my mind, and this is how I justify it, Rick did not think that Michonne was into him. He didn't know until they were on that couch that night with the mints. And he's always been trying to pursue her. And I think she was always waiting for him, like until he took off that ring off his finger. It's when she was kind of, like, well, maybe this could be a thing. And she was right. He was still holding on to Lori. And this is the final thought I will leave you all on. The final memory for the non-believers. Because the Rishoners already know, but for the non-believers. You want to talk about symbolism and how much Michonne has meant to Rick? Remember when he was contemplating handing her over to the governor? The last time he has a vision of Lori, he's collecting those wires like Merle told him to. She's standing up above on that walkway, that scaffolding, looking down at him, bathed in sunlight, but casting shadow at the same time. And this isn't white dress Lori. Okay, this is the Lori that he saw last before he never saw her again. She's wearing that plaid shirt. She's still very much pregnant. And this visual is right before he comes to the conclusion that no, this isn't me. I cannot turn this woman over. I will accept going to war because that was the consequence, the definitive consequence if he didn't turn over. He accepted all those terms and decided to wait it out. So now my alarm's going off. But I'll leave y'all with that. Hope everyone has a good day, and higher quality videos are on the horizon, I promise.